You say that this mobile phone is a quality and this mobile phone doesn't have a quality by the name of the mobile phone that you're going to buy. How we say it is a quality and how we say it is not going to have a quality is based on the goodwill or the brand name that you're going to buy. It shows that the quality of the mobile phone. So you rely on a mobile phone which is going to be branded, which has a goodwill. They say that if I buy a Samsung mobile phone, it has a good quality. If I go for an Infinix, it will not be having a quality. You decide by yourself. How it comes right based on the how the software or the product has been built. So a quality, sir, what is a quality? If I say a mobile phone is good, right? It has a good quality software. It doesn't seem the look of the mobile phone alone. It has multiple attributes. Sir, what are the multiple attributes for defining the quality of a mobile phone? Yes, it must have a look. It must have a very good performance. It must have a very good speed. And it must be reliable. These are some of the attributes. It defines that a product has a quality. A quality has multiple attributes has to be defined. A quality is not a single attribute. A quality has a multiple attributes. So in how we are going to develop a software, how we are going to build a software, you have to develop your quality software. How we are going to do that? For this, as I already told, right, a quality, it has to be defined. Sir, how we can define a quality? As I already told, right, what are the multiple attributes that I have? The multiple attributes you have, sir, performance, make, a goodwill, a brand name. And apart from that, you must have a requirement, a quality requirement. How the quality requirement is fulfilled. For buying a product, some of the mobile phones are good for playing games. Some of the mobile phones are good for taking cameras, that is pictures. So it depends upon the person who is going to buy a mobile phone. It has to be defined for the person who is going to create a software for that. Some of the mobile phone, if you go for a Vivo, right, the camera will be very good. If you go for some other mobile phone, right, they have a very good big screen for playing games. So the requirements depend upon the user who is going to buy the software. So we cannot expect all the requirements in a single mobile phone. It will be there, but each and everything has its one advantage and also disadvantage. Some of them, they want a mobile phone for having a very good battery backup. They never worry about the camera. So the requirements depend upon the users. It must have a quality definition. Yes, how it is going to be defined. What are the qualities definition for the product? They're based on the requirements. Who is going to buy it? For whom we are going to building the product? And what sort of measures are there for identifying the software quality? There are different measures that are present over Merkel's quality. You might have studied in this software engineering. While you're studying software engineering, you might identify this Merkel's quality factors. And we also have ISO 9026 quality factors, which will be looking into it. All right. How to attain or how to identify or how to define a quality product? While developing itself, it must have some necessary features to be added. After completing a product, we must not go and say that the product is not good or the product I have developed is not good. While developing it, while the starting stage itself, I have to identify what are the products that I'm going to do. For example, if you're going to study for an exam, we have 15 days of holiday, that is study leave. You are going to prepare for the university exam. Probably you might have done it in your 10th and 12th. And from also might be doing for the college also. They might be scheduling a timetable. Probably your parents might have made a timetable for you for 10th and 12th. Morning, this subject, second subject, third subject, fourth subject, fifth subject. they have a process flow. Why? Because by the end of the 15th day, you will be very good in all the subjects. So you must have a planned approach for getting a quality product. Not only a product, in all the means. For everything, as I told, right? For your exam, your quality product. If you want to have a very good exam, if you want to get more amount of marks, right? If you schedule and study, output will be very good. If you want to develop a product, if you do what all things that you want for a product, if you schedule it and do it, I'll be getting very good output. So you must have a planned and it must be a systematic approach. We have the standard knuckle approach and so many approaches for defining a quality. Ensure the product development standards and procedures. These things has to be done with respect to a particular standard. Knuckle standard, ISO 9001, ISO 9002 standard. So many standards. What standard you are going to follow? Those sort of things has to be defined. What are things you are going to do? A continuous monitoring. Yes, starting from the scratch, you have to monitor. You have to plan it, and with respect to the plan, you must have a monitor. Continuous each and every time. If you go and look into it, right, the product will be built in a better way. Sir, how it can be? If you are studying the first unit, right? If I go and ask the question 1, 2, and 3 questions, right? If you are not answering, again you will be studying the first unit, not going to the second unit. So this is how we build a quality, a continuous monitoring. Sir, I have studied first unit. Yes, if you studied, answer the question. If you are not able to answer, that is you must not prepared. So you will be going and studying it. Similar way for developing a product. I have identified a requirement. I'm going to build a software. If the requirement is not, I have to check it. The requirement has been completed, developed, or defined, and you are going. I am going to check whether the requirement is correct or not. How it is going to work. If it is not working, I'll give some other ideas to exchanging or modifying the requirement or how to get the output of the requirement. So a continuous monitoring is required. And it must have a product evaluation. Sir, what evaluation? What evaluation you are going to do? A requirement I have defined, you have developed it or you have designed it. I am checking out how it will work. An evaluation. For example, right, going to an ATM machine, dipping your card, and it is asking me the password. The response must be given within a fraction of a second. The product evaluation. Similar way, right? If I give an input, it was given output, and the performance is speed, right? Then I will be accepting it. If the performance is less, I have to again go back. And finally, what we have to do? Conducting audits. I have developed it, I have created it, I have monitored, I have evaluated, and it has to be audited. Why do you want to audit? I am developing software. It has to be, I'm developing software not for myself, for the third person. Each and every person in the public has to accept my software. It must not be my software. I have to develop a product only for the third personalities. So I have to check whether what I have done is correct or not. So I have to give a view for the public audits. I have to check for my software. Similarly, we have a beta version. We will be coming to it later. What are the standards and procedures that we have? The standards, as I already told, right? You must follow any one of the product standard. Which product standard we are going to use? ISO standard. We also have CM level standards. What are the standards we are going to be? The procedure has to be developed and it has to be in a controlled manner. Why? Because controlled in the sense, after a certain period, I have to go and monitor it. I have to check it or audit it. If anything goes flaws, right, I have to come back. So it must be a controlled process. You complete it, I'll come and check it. If I say study first unit, I'll come and ask the answer, right? After completing the first unit, you have to inform me. You must not go for the second unit. That is, it must be a controlled process. And this developing application, we need a software quality. A privacy standards has to be followed. Some of the activities, as I already told, a continuous monitoring, a product evaluation, a content. Everything, whatever the standard that we have, whatever the procedure we follow, everything must be continuously monitored. Everything must have a product evaluation. Everything must have a continuous audit. These three things must be followed in the continuous product. So I'll be getting So I'll be have a product evaluation, conducting audits. So I'll be having these things has to be done for your standard procedures. Okay. Next, what are the types of standards? Where we have to follow the standard. First one, we have a documentation. What documentation? Second, we have a design, and second, we have a code. Third, we have a code. So we have to follow all the standard in all the levels. If we follow ISO 2001, right, it must be followed in all the three. The standard must not be changed for each and everything. The documentation. Why a documentation? The software that I'm going to develop must be documented. Must be documented. Sir, what documentation, sir? Why do you want a documentation? Whatever I plan, it must be in a paper. It must be in materialistic way. It must be materialized in such a way that what are the things that I have done. Suppose if I identify 5 requirements, right, all the 5 requirements must be present in a document. Why? Because after saying something on using a word and saying something using a paper, it has a difference. If I say 5, if I say 5 requirements, all the requirements must be documented. If I say 10 requirements, all the 10 requirements has to be documented. All the 10 requirements has to be documented. Why? Because it will not be creating any flaws after developing software. A documentation, it has some developing how we are going to, it must have provide consistency throughout the development of the life cycle. The consistency must be there. If I say 10 requirements, all the 10 requirements must be established. If I say 25 requirements, all 25 requirements must be deployed in my software. So it needs a consistency. Why? Because after 25 experiments, the user cannot, the customer cannot come and ask me, I told 26 requirements, but there is only 25. That's why you have to plot it on a paper. It must be a blueprint. It must be materialized. If I say 25, yes, for this 25 requirements, I'm going to build. I'm going to build a software, right? Next, design. The standards that I follow in the documentation must all follow in my design. Define proper form content for the design product. A standard must be provided for each and every design that I produced. A class, it has to be followed. What type of design we are going to use. For all the design, right, we are going to use only UML notations, Unified Modeling Language. This is a standard for your design. Whether it is followed by ISO 1 or ISO 2, everyone follows the UML notations. They have the notations. For a class, they have a notation. For a relation, they have a notation. For a product, they have a notation. They have package, they have a notation. They have a collaboration diagram. They have a sequence diagram. All the diagrams have been developed using the UML standard. It follows all the standards. Now, the design. A proper design has to be followed for the product. The design has to be developed in such a way that it is accepted by all the users, or not all the users. It has to be a third person is not necessary for dictating a design. It must be designed in such a way he must be able to understand the design. And methods for translating software requirements, it is something I want to identify the requirement, and the requirements has to be compiled into a design. Like you have a flow, chart for your program, right? My design is going to be for a software. The algorithm is going to be converted into a design. Here, what all the requirements that I identified in my documentation, right? It has to be converted into a design. We have to check into it. We have to be confident that all the requirements, the 5 requirements, all the 5 requirements has to be converted into my design. We have to check it. We have all the process. We have the continuous monitoring, product evaluation, and conducting audits in all the levels, all the 3 levels. A code, a program language. Whatever the language you are going to implement, or a customer request, you have to develop a software for it. We are not going more time into the code, but because we are going to make only a design over here, where we are trying to identify the software. If we go for your code, sir, how we can define whether it has a quality? A response must be immediately given for all the transactions that I make in the software. For example, you want to make a call in a mobile phone. For making a call, right? If I click my phone book in a single tap, it must open. If it is open, if I'm clicking this or digging the mobile phone for opening my phone book, right? It would take more amount of time. That software is a useless software. So a performance of my code must be faster compared to any other software. Next, procedure must be followed in carrying out development process. What procedures? The software that I have developed using the documented procedures. The procedures must have a configuration management that is present in your document, how it is going to be deployed. A design that I make, we have a package diagram. We have to create a code for my package. We have a component diagram, how the components are going to be deployed, how many components are there, how many packages are there, how many functions are present inside the package. Everything must be defined and it must give a clear picture for the documentation using a design. And it must have all the requirements that I've identified must be present in my software design. That is non-conformance code. All the things must be present over there. If anything is not present over there, all the corrective action must be taken. And abruptly, we have a testing and formal inspection. Testing is something, right? After developing, we can go for testing. It is one way of testing. Usually, we'll be doing it. While developing itself, while designing itself, we go for a testing. Parallelly, we go for a testing. You might have come across the VE model that is present in your software engineering. In the requirement phase, we test whether my software requirements are correct. The design phase, we test whether all the design is going to be correct. Then the coding phase, again we test. A testing is going to be done gradually in a VE model. So many models are there. Apart from the VE model, make a test at the starting stage to the final end of my software. Why do you want to make a test from the starting stage? Each and every time I am testing whether my software is going to work properly or not. If I start testing from the smallest level at the design and the requirement level itself, right, I'll be getting a very good product, a quality product I'll be getting. Next, SQA activities. We have a product evaluation. We have process monitoring. These are the two important activities that is going to be present in my software. A product evaluation, product monitoring. Sir, when a product is going to be developed, when the process is going to be monitored, while developing the product, right, it has to follow a process. How you are going to develop, what process you are going to use. If I'm using a first in, first out algorithm, it is going to be a process. After the first in, first out algorithm, I have to check whether the algorithm is working for a software. An evaluation has to be made. If I'm going for a round robin, you have to use a round robin algorithm for my event or for my requirement. Yes, I have to process going to be a round robin. By the end of my round robin, I have to give the appropriate input. I have to check whether my round robin algorithm is working or not. So these are some of the certain activities that is going to present in my software quality assurance. For providing or giving an assurance for my software, these are things has to be done. Right? Product is continuously monitored for checking that it's following standards and procedures. It has to follow the process and standards. A product evaluation. The evaluation, how it is going to be, assures the standards are being followed, whether you are using the following standard. If I use a round robin algorithm, what sort of algorithm you are going to use? Whether you are using an abrupt standard for what standard you are using. Ensure the software application product is developed conforming all the applicable standards illustrated in the management plan. If I said I'll be using a particular standard for your software, right? It has to be used. A particular standard has to be followed. Particular standard has to be followed. Then only my software that is going to be developed will be having a quality. Suppose I'm saying that I'm going to provide you an application, an app, which is going to have a very good standard, which is going to have a very good resolution of my picture. A camera app which is going to be developed. The app, right, if I'm developing it for my camera, it has to be having a following standard. If I want to develop an app for a very good standard, right, very good standard, I have to follow what sort of standard has to be followed. If I'm going to use 64 pixel camera. I have told in my document 64 pixel camera has to be used for my camera app in my mobile phone. The 64-bit camera, sir, by the end of my development, by the end of my app, right, my installation must be done on my 64-bit camera. If I'm using 34-bit camera, right, my product evaluation, I'm not following a standard. I told something 64-bit, but I am providing only 34-bit camera. 34-bit camera app. It is called as a product evaluation. Likewise, sir, if you go for an infix camera, right, they give 148 pixel camera, but the camera might will be around 16 to 17 megapixel. That's it. It is a standard. Why? Because they didn't evaluate everything else. So the standard has to be followed. That is going to be defining in the requirement phase. It must be while releasing the software or releasing my app, it must be present over there. A product monitoring ensures appropriate steps are carried out during the development process. All the steps have to be followed. What are the steps? If I'm building for your C programming, right, it has to follow it has a structure of following a C language. Whereas we go for an object-oriented program, right, it has a structure of developing a program. So you have to check what is going to be the flow of it. If you must be very good in developing the particular app or particular program or particular product, then only you will be knowing that you are following a particular standard for monitoring or for evaluation. For example, if you want to buy a monitor for a system, I'll be going for an LG. LG is good for a monitor. If I want to buy a laptop, I will not be going for an LG laptop. I will not be going for a LG laptop. I'll be going for something as a HP or Lenovo. Why? Because this LG is good in preparing or developing a product of